darklings. We talk about a myriad of different topics on this show, from ghosts to UFOs, alien encounters, psychic phenomena, monsters, myths, legends. If it was up to you, which phenomena would you really like to encounter? I mean, really have an encounter with. For many of us, it falls into one category. Perhaps it's to be aboard that spaceship, to see it firsthand, or proof of the afterlife that something does live past this mortal form. Maybe you're an outdoors person, and to see something unbelievable, like no other hunter before you has seen a Sasquatch, a chupacabra, the Mothman. There are very few people in life that you'll meet that have had encounters with all of them. Our guest tonight is unique in the sense that he's been doing his show, Spaced Out Radio, for a number of years, talking to guests around the world, just like we do here, hearing stories, but he has his own. And not just little incidental bump-ins, but major, extreme, paranormal encounters. That's our topic tonight. Stay tuned. We've got a lot to discuss right here on the best in paranormal programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney. You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me. Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
I'm Bruce McCullough. I'd like to tell you about the Daves I know. These are 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 the Daves I know.
I'm Dave Schrader, that's Dave Scott, and we are the Daves you know tonight, right here on the Paranormal 60. Dave, it is a pleasure to finally have you on my program. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Oh, dude, anybody who gets an opportunity to speak with your dulcet tones on YouTube, it is a fantastic privilege, shall I say, to finally be here with an elite such as yourself.
My God. How much did my wife pay you to say all that stuff to try to rebuild my ego? Come on, Scott.
It was about $150.
Is that Canadian?
Yeah, so it was about $12 American.
Yeah, I gotcha. Hey, folks, this is the host with the most. You're listening tonight to two Daves, two parallel lives with high strangeness, and both men producing paranormal content. And guess what? You can check out live broadcasts daily of Spaced Out Radio, 9 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Mountain. That's 11 p.m. Central. Check out Spaced Out Radio. They own the night. Dave Scott, the host. That means right after our show tonight, you could take a quick little break, wash your face with some hot water, grab a tea, sit down, nuzzle in your favorite sweater, and listen to old Uncle Dave Scott as he takes you through another part of the journey of the unusual. And I'm psyched to have you because, you know, I've been on your show a couple of times and I get little tastes of the high strangeness of your life, but I've never had a chance to sit down and speak to you about the paranormal from start to finish. And normally I try to have two guests on in this hour so that we could, you know, go to the meat, but you've got so much meat to share. That sounds a little weird, doesn't it? You've got so much to share with us that you're here for the entire hour to talk us through all of the different type of experiences you've had. Now, folks, let me just start this part by saying what you're about to hear is a man with an extraordinary life. And many of you may have a hard time believing the things you're about to hear, but that's okay. Because for others of you, what you're about to hear will touch base and resonate in your life. And when you hear that this man has faced the angel of death, aliens, Sasquatch, ghosts, and you think to yourself, it's impossible. Nobody has had this many encounters in their life. Just remember your old pal Dave here, Dave Schrader, that is, for those of you listening. I've talked to you openly about the fact that I had a Bigfoot sighting. I've seen UFOs. I've seen craft. I've seen a Bigfoot. I've had spiritual, ghostly, and psychic phenomena throughout my entire life. I think you can become kind of a transponder for these things. You become a lightning rod once you start to open up to these things and you don't work to shut it down. You start to attract these things. How early in your life did all of this bizarre stuff start to seep its way in, Dave?
You know what? I'll answer it this way. I lived a happily boring life until I was 38 years old, and I'll be 50 this year. And I didn't want any of this, Dave. I mean, I remember sitting around a campfire with my buddies. We'd go camping, and you sit around, man, there's three things I want to see in life. I want to see a UFO, I want to see a Bigfoot, and I want to see a ghost. Well, I worked in a haunted building, I lived in a haunted house, and then a few years later, Sasquatch came. But what prepared me for this was nothing. I'm a radio guy like you are. I, I graduated from the British Columbia Institute of Technology in 1998. I spent nearly 10 years in terrestrial radio trying to hone my skills as a journalist. And I spent 7 years working in Vancouver, where I had my dream job. I was working in sports. I mean, man, I didn't pay for a round of golf in 10 years. you know some of the perks. One thing about radio is, and Dave, you'll understand when I say this, we go into it, we're like pseudo celebrities. We're treated like celebrities, but we sure as hell aren't paid like celebrities. So we definitely take advantage of the perks that go along with it. And that just happened to be golf for me. But I got out of radio in 2007, never looked back. And from there, I just, started being me. I mean, we would go out. It was nothing for us to go, my partner and I, to go take off to Vegas for a couple times, or take our children to Disneyland or whatever. But in 2011, that's where my entire life changed. And it happened. I can tell you the exact time, because us radio people were addicted to time. Yeah. And it happened at 7:48 p.m. on, it was December 13th, 2011. And I was pissed off with my parents because they were leaving my house early. Mm-hmm. And, my family is so tight, Dave, that instead of having dinner with my family, because we were celebrating Christmas early for my daughter, who was going away with her mother's parents over Christmas and New Year's. And I wanted my side of the family, because I was divorced, and I wanted my family to have a Christmas and New Year's with her. So we did this early Christmas, turkey dinner, presents, had the whole family over. There was about 20 people in my house. And at 7:48 p.m., my parents announced that they're leaving because, Dancing with the Stars is literally more important. I'm not even joking about that. Not even joking. Like, I was fuming. And my mother had been sick for a while, Dave. She really had been sick for a while. And my partner, she'd been taking all these woo courses, of spirituality and Zen and Chi, and getting everything aligned with a couple little bells that go ting,
right.
And stuff. Right. And then that hit. So I was upset that my parents were leaving. And I went into my living room where nobody was, and I was collecting dishes and glasses to take to my kitchen. And I had a doorway to walk through my kitchen. And my mother was on the other side of that doorway. And my mother's a 2-time cancer survivor. And I walked through the doorway, Dave, and everything went silent. And I looked my mother in the eyes, and she has these beautiful blue eyes. And her eyes were jet black with white pupils. And immediately I got sick to my stomach, and I wanted to cry, because I knew, I don't know how, but I knew I was looking into the eyes of the angel of death. And I kind of turned my head like this. My mom went, and she shook her head. Sound goes on the TV. Everybody's talking again. And her eyes go back to blue. She hugs me like nothing happened. And I am stunned. I take my partner notices something wrong. I take off down the hall to our bedroom, and my partner's right behind me. She goes, "What happened?" And I just said, "I just saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes, and I'm going to cry." And she goes, "Well, pull it together and go say goodnight to your parents. They're at the front door," and all this kind of stuff, right? So I walk my parents out. I'm screwed for the next couple of hours. We have friends over and everything. So about 10 o'clock, 10:30, everybody's left. It was no, about 10 o'clock at night. Everybody's left. And my partner takes me back into our living room, and she puts our couches right across from each other with a table. She lights a bunch of white candles on the table, and she goes, "I want you to relax. I want you to tell me what you saw." And I don't remember the next 38 minutes.
Hmm.
I had it recorded, but my iPhone 3 died. Remember way back in the iPhone 3 days, anybody? With the round back. And Dave, God is my witness, and I'm a believer in God. I channeled the angel of death. I didn't know what channeling was.
Mhm.
Never. To me, channeling is grabbing a remote control and flipping through the channels as quick as you possibly can to find something on there.
Right.
So this spirit says through me, and this is what I remember. I wasn't supposed to see him, but because I did, he felt he owed me an explanation. He felt that my mother was still very ill from her cancer treatments years previous, because radiation and chemotherapy will do that. And he said, if we as a family don't start taking my mother or treating my mother better, he's going to take her home. He didn't say heaven. He didn't say hell. He said he was just going to take her home. And I asked, well, what do I do to keep my mother alive? And he's like, you got to get on the phone. You need to talk to your sisters. You need to talk to your relatives and say, this is what you saw. And we need to show mom more love. And if we don't, she might be gone. So I did that. The only person I didn't tell was my dad, because my dad's an Albertan 5 senses farm boy.
Mhm.
And I started off with my grandmother, and then I went to my sisters, went to my one of my aunts, talked to my some other people about it. And that's what kind of kicked it off. And within a couple of days, Dave, my house, which had zero spirit activity, all of a sudden became haunted. My daughter, my stepdaughter were seeing ghosts. I'd be sitting by my television watching TV. I got the stairway right there, and I'd hear something walking down my stairway, yet my dogs are right beside me. Kids are in bed.
Hmm.
It all just kind of started. Then a few days later, I started getting premonitions. Like it just went bang for me. Like I didn't ask for this.
Mhm.
Okay. But it just happened. A few days later, my friend was a good friend of mine. She's a former hostess at a former mansion in California that has a magazine named after it. She used to be a hostess there. And at the time, about a year previous, she was dating a famous rock star. And I said, don't worry, somebody else is coming. And a few days after this incident with my mom, a few of us go to a rock concert in Vancouver. And I look at the dude on stage and I said, that's your next boyfriend. 11 months later, she runs face to face into him at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. And they get together.
Hmm.
Right. And so I started down this path and I thought, okay, this channeling stuff, okay, what's it all about? Started looking into all this weird stuff. And I met a gentleman named Pascal Lachance, who is my guru, my idol, and everything. And he's a monster of a man. He's about 6'3", about 330 pounds, the gentlest soul you'll ever meet. But when he shakes your hand, he lets you know that he's a very, very powerful man and strong man. And he introduces himself to me, and we're having tea at our house because that's what he likes to do. And it's about 11 o'clock at night, and he says, let's go for a drive, Dave. I'm like, well, isn't it late? He goes, no, we got all night. He goes, what, you got to work in the morning? Who cares? Let's just go for a drive. So we go for a drive, buckle into the car, First thing he says out of his mouth to me is, "How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, why not? Let's go for it." He
Mhm.
goes, "Once you go, there's no turning back." I said, "Yeah, well, I live a boring life, so why not give it a try?" So I did. And we started going on these night drives where all of a sudden, you'd start seeing shadows of people standing on the side of the road, or shadows of animals crossing. And it's all about getting in tune and everything. And this went on for about 6, 7 months, going into 2012. And no, I met him in 2012, pardon me. So going into 2013, and he started asking me questions, challenging me. What do you want to see next? I said, well, I really want to see a Sasquatch, because when I was 21, I'd seen a UFO. And he's like, well, let's manifest that. And he started teaching me about manifestation and channeling. And we started doing these paranormal experiments in a blacked out room, not a dark room, a blacked out room where there is no light seeping in, no light pollution, whatever. And the things we saw in there, man, we saw, like, there would be two of us sitting in lawn chairs in this bare room, maybe 3, 4 feet apart. And we would literally watch this solar system open up around us, right above us. And just like you would see like little sparks shooting off from it. It was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had. And anyways, manifesting Sasquatch, he's like, well, when do you think you'll see it? I said, July. I think July of 2013. Well, July comes around, never saw a damn thing. September, though, that's when it happened. So we used to hang out at a friend of mine who had
Well, now
10.
hold on one second.
Yeah,
Let's reel you back a little bit, because this is
sure.
a lot coming from a big sip from a fire hose. You suddenly are opened. You
Yeah.
channel the the specter of death itself, and then you're just on to the next story. Like, and then I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and hung out with my friends.
True.
I need to know, what's the after effect of channeling a spirit, especially an ancient spirit, something so entrenched as an
Sure.
egregore into our thoughts and consciousness? What's the after effect to a person like that?
It was heavy. It hurt me. It hurt me. I felt like I was hungover for a couple of days. And I
Okay.
remember calling my psychic friend up saying, "Hey, this is what happened the night before," because she was at our house. And I said, she's like, "I knew something happened." I said, "Of course you did." Right. And my neck was sore, my muscles were sore, felt like I didn't sleep a wink. I felt hungover for 2, 3 days. And, I'm not a drinker. Right. Um, it was heavy. And once I got to know Pascal, he really worked on my channeling to understand it a little bit more, to try and strengthen those communications. I remember one time we were working with a First Nations warrior from my area, and real handsome guy. I could see him, and he was bugging my daughters because he thought one of my daughters was his wife, and he hadn't seen his wife in a long time, and he was wearing
Mhm.
traditional garb with a lot of turquoise and other type of traditional handmade jewelry. And and through Pascal helping me walk through it, I remember channeling through this and saying, your wife isn't here. You have to look for her on the other side, and sending him, to the other side, with bringing down this bright white light in my backyard and watching him step into it. I mean, there are so many stories that go along with that you just kind of forget sometimes. I mean, it's just,
Did it make you question your own sanity?
yeah. But of course, I mean, I was working I was working in a finance company, and I'm trying to make a career. I make good money, and now I have this crap happen. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want to waste my time on weekends learning about psychic ability and intuition, and grounding and everything when I could be out riding my ATV until all hours of night with my buddy, setting a
Right.
fire up and having some fun. I mean, I was more into partying in Vegas or going out for dinner with friends or whatever it may be until this happened, right? So I mean, nothing I could do. It just hit, man. I mean,
It's
there's
interesting, isn't it, that you were at a point in your life when you had a certain set of perspectives, a certain way of living your life and doing things, and it was the being faced with the eternal death that opened you up to make you realize
yeah,
that there is much more to life than the things that you had been experiencing. Michelle from our chat says, "May I ask, did he listen to the angel of death and spend more
yeah,
time with his mom?"
yes, yes. And I should add to that too that I
Mhm,
actually had about 6 months later a second encounter with the angel of death. And it was one of those days that none of us want. And it was a day where my partner, she got called that her grandmother was on her deathbed, no pun
mhm.
intended, and we had to go to the hospice where she was at. So I pick her up and I race out to the hospital with her, and we walk into the room, and the angel of death just like any other type of spirit, has an energy to it that you recognize. I could recognize it in a heartbeat. It's like Dave, you've done enough ghost hunting now where you walk into a room, if there's something in there. You could feel it like
Mhm.
instantaneously. And more importantly, you probably feel it before you've even reached the building.
Right.
And that's what it was like. We walked into her grandmother's room, and their entire family is in there, and they're all weeping and crying. And I barely know this lady. I'd only met her like twice previous to this, maybe 3 times. And the minute I walk in, I could feel his energy. And I was like, wow, where are you? So I started challenging him because, I'm this big, tough, intuitive guy now. I kind of have a clue of what's going on. I'm like, come on.
Right.
And under my breath, I'd be like, come on, you idiot. Just show me yourself. I know where you are. I know you're here. And I could feel the energy moving all around the room.
Mhm.
And finally, about 9 minutes before she breathed her final breath, I'm standing right at the foot of the bed. Grandma's feet are maybe 7 inches in front of me, and I've got my arm around my partner, and she is like weeping and everything. And all of a sudden, man, once again, I swear on my children's lives, on a Bible, whatever you believe in, it was like I watched her spirit come out of her chest.
Mm.
And it was like a football, the shape of a football, except it was swirling and more narrow. And I heard this voice in my head, is this what you want? Is this what you want to see? Is this what it's all about? And then I watched that spirit shoot right through the ceiling of the building, of the hospital room. His energy was now gone. And I'm standing there in front of family. I'm like, holy,
Right.
and my wife looks at me, and I started laughing, Dave. I started laughing. I'm like, what the hell just happened? You know? And so I pull my wife out of the room, and I'm like, she's gone. And she's like, no, she's still breathing. I'm like, no, she's gone. She's like, well, what do you mean she's gone? I said, I just saw her spirit leave her body. The angel of death isn't here anymore. He's gone. She's gone. And 9 minutes later, grandma breathed her final breath. But for me, it was very, very profound, because if you know me, I have a real deep fear of death. I always have. I never grew up Christian, but I always grew up believing there's God, and there's a heaven, and there's a devil, and there's a hell, and if you're good, you go up. If you're bad, you go down.
Mhm.
And I just but I always worried about that scientific side of things. What if we're one and done? that would really suck because I kind of like it here. I like the mountains. I like driving. I like seeing new places. I like my kids, you know. I like my family somewhat. Um, I like my dog. I like
No,
where
I'm
I
I'm
live.
like-minded with you. It's been a fear of mine since I was very little. I've said
Yeah.
about age of 5 came crashing this fear of death. It's always been a part of me until, about 3, 4 years ago when I did an ayahuasca journey that helped me feel a little bit more comfortable with the concept of death. I'm just not in any rush to get there. But
Yeah.
like you, I've had all those same challenging thoughts of, what if
Yeah.
this is one and done? And then maybe if it is, that's why we need to make the best of the situation, the best of everything we can while we're here, so that it,
Mhm.
and in what I've tried to let go of, if there is nothing, I won't know. So stop letting that fear get to me. It'll just be done. And, that used to be very disconcerting to me. Now I've just grown to realize, okay, that if that's what happens, that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I'm walking around haunting my kids and, knocking stuff over and making a mess for them like they did for me for my whole life. So I get it. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. You and I have so many parallels, Dave Scott. It's crazy
Yeah.
through our lives with these different kind of moments. Fascinating. And again, it stems kind of from this fear of death that
Yeah.
both of us find an interest. Do you I need to know then, when you have that ability to sense death, going to a hospital has got to be vacuous to you because you walk in, you have to sense just that there's something around every corner.
You know what hits me more is going into a church.
Oh, really?
When I can't go to a church. When I
Hmm.
walk into a church, I get absolutely pummeled by the hypocrisy, and I feel like I could point around to everybody. You're a drunk. You're a cheater. You beat your kids. You smack around your husband. You're the one who's doing cocaine in the back rooms of your work. Like all of this stuff. I could feel that hypocrisy, and that one really hits me. A hospital isn't too bad for me. I haven't had any real experiences in a hospital, but you know, I I just let it happen, man. I know my house right here is that I'm in right now where my studio is. I know this place is haunted. It's
See,
got some cool
that
stuff
seems
that
the
happened.
worst part to me, would being able to sense death. That is, I would not want to have that. I can't even imagine what that's like for you, because to me that feels like a heavy burden. Do you ever feel that it's just kind of like
Well,
you said, it's not
I
something
wouldn't
you
say
asked
that
for?
I wouldn't say that I sense death. I would say more that uh they whoever they are were trying to calm me down from having freakouts about death.
Mhm.
And that's why I was shown what I was shown. Like you know, I remember when my grandfather died. I was heartbroken. Like my grandfather was my one of my idols. And the funny part about it is our family lore, because every family has one little legend and lore, was my grandfather was a very violent drunk.
Mm.
And so much so that my dad went and kidnapped my grandmother from Alberta to British and brought her to British Columbia because my grandfather was getting violent. And after a 3-week bender, my grandfather drove to British Columbia. My dad challenged him on our driveway. Now I'm at this time maybe a couple months old. And apparently what happened was after they calmed down, my dad introduced me to my grandfather, and my grandfather never picked up another drink after that.
Mm.
And so I just know my grandfather as this awesome, awesome man, but I don't know the nightmares that my father and his two brothers ever
Right.
experienced under his hand, right?
Hmm.
And so it's really weird how that works. But I mean, I remember when he died, I remember I was taking a hot shower and I had no windows in my shower or anything like that. And I remember this cold breeze coming through my window or through the glass panes of my shower door. and with this voice that said, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." Right. And I was like, really? Doesn't seem like it.
Right.
But I knew it was angelic. I mean, I've had a lot of really weird religious type, people would call religious type experiences. I never really put two and two together
Right.
until everything started happening in December 13th, 2011.
All right. Now, I know I derailed you as we were just starting to get into your Bigfoot encounters, and I want to bring us back to that in just a few moments. But what I'll do is I'll take our quick break now so that we can rejoin, collect our thoughts. We've heard quite a lot to take into perspective. Our guest tonight, again, Dave Scott. He is the legendary host of Spaced Out Radio. You can hear that every weeknight. That's right. Live broadcasts daily, 9 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Mountain, 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. Eastern. So you can tune in to Spaced Out Radio right after you get done with the Paranormal 60. We've got a lot more to discuss, a lot of cool things coming your way, including this. I'm going to be at GalaxyCon in Richmond, Virginia, March 24th through the 26th. If you are a nerd like me and you love sci-fi and horror and gaming and childhood memories, GalaxyCon is for you. There are going to be 4 major GalaxyCon conventions throughout the year in different places. I will be at each and every one as their paranormal contingent, leading different paranormal discussions and talks. I'll also be leading and moderating some of the celebrity panels. And if you come on out to Richmond, Virginia, not only do you get to see me and get a chance to hang out and meet me and talk, but Dave Tennant, Doctor Who, is going to be there. Catherine Tate. Yeah, that's right. Donna Noble, also from Doctor Who, going to be on hand. There are so many amazing guests. You are missing out if you don't get out and check it out for yourself. And if you use code GALAXY25, you're going to save 25% off your tickets. So again, come on out and see me. Find out about all of the different GalaxyCon, all of the amazing guests that'll be out there, cosplayers and more at galaxycon.com. Use Galaxy25 code to get that 25% off. I'm going to be out at the Parapsychon 4. It'll be my 3rd journey back out to Ohio State Reformatory for the Parapsychon. It's going to be an amazing trip. We've got a lot of cool people that are going to be there from every walk of paranormal life, from UFOs to Bigfoot to cryptids and demons and ghosts, and the Ghost Whisperer herself. Mary Ann Winkowski. That's who the show Ghost Whisperer was based on. Watch the credits. You'll see her. I've had her on my shows in the past. She's going to be on hand. Aaron Sagers will be there. My good friend Shane Pittman and I will be on hand. We'll be reminiscing about the Holzer files. We'll be talking a little Ghost to Devil's Perch and 28 Days Haunted. The Ghost Brothers are there. Andrea Perrin from The Conjuring will be on hand. Mike Ricksecker. So many amazing guests. And again, to make it a little bit easier, all you have to do is go to darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com to find that location and all the others that I'll be at, including this July at the USS North Carolina. You can get haunted with me and the team from Get Haunted. We're going to be spending our time investigating the USS North Carolina. One, as I'm told, one of the most haunted ships. Everybody that I've talked to that has been on there has told me they have had extreme paranormal encounters as well. So join us and be a part of that. And if you are a world traveler like me and you want to get out and see something spectacular, listen, my Egypt trip coming up in just a few weeks, already sold out. My Germany and Prague event in July, sold out. One last chance to see the world with me this year. I'm going to be going to Erie, England. My friend and co-host on this journey, the one and only and legendary king of storytelling, Neil Story, will be with me. We will get a really cool tour of some of the most haunted and remarkable sites, plus a spiritual moment like no other as we visit Stonehenge together. And then sandwiched in between this amazing journey, we're going to be going to the premier paranormal conference in the UK, the Festival of the Unexplained. That's right. You can join me for a paranormal conference and a tour. All the information is up at darknessevents.com. Journey with us September 12th through the 21st, 2023 to England. Last time we were there, I had to put 2 events in the same year because it booked up so quickly, and we are already half sold out on this Erie, England trip. You don't want to miss out. Go sign up. Find more information about it. It's on our website. It's easy to access. We've got that and this.
Join us for this amazing paranormal conference that's being held in a haunted school in Glen Beulah, Wisconsin. Haunted Midwest Ghost Tours presents Great Lakes Paranormal Conference on September 22nd through the 24th, 2023. We have some great speakers with Jason Hawes, Adam Berry, Sherry D. Benedetti, Lyle Blackburn, Shane Pittman, Sarah Lemos, Dave Schrader, Jeff Bellinger, along with Wisconsin's very own Chad Lewis, and many more will make this one of Wisconsin's most talked about events. We have over 40 vendors and nighttime investigations at various haunted locations with special guests. Get your tickets now at GreatLakesParanormalConference.com and find us on Facebook under the same name. Choose from VIP, General 3-Day, and Day Pass. Again, that's GreatLakesParanormalConference.com.
Haunted Magazine is packed full of the paranormal, stuffed with the supernatural, sautéed with spookiness, garnished with ghosts, and even drizzled with a dash of demons. If you want histories, mysteries, ghost stories, hauntings, weird stuff, freaky stuff, and more supernatural than you can shake a stick at, come and see Haunted Magazine for the world's best paranormal writers. Visit www.hauntedmagazineprintshop.com for your latest scare. Remember kids, don't be normal, be paranormal.
Urban's Edge Tattoo Aftercare is the first ethically sourced, all-natural, vegan, and organic tattoo care line on the market. All of our products are formulated by leading experts in the skincare industry and are developed especially to nourish, enhance, and preserve your tattoos. Our tattoo enhancing balms are non-greasy and the perfect consistency for daily use. They're absorbent, hydrating, restorative, and are guaranteed to bring life back into your artwork. Visit www.urbansedgetattoo.com to order your starter kit today. That's www.urbansedgetattoo.com.
Hey, you want to help out the show? You want to show your real love and support? I thank you for the super chats, the super stickers, the super thanks. I thank you for being here with us every Monday and Friday live as we have fun together in this community. But make sure that you take care of the sponsors that sponsor the show. Pick up some of the different things that we show on this program, like Urban Edge and their tattoo balms. You're going to love it. I don't put them on the show unless I stand behind these products 100%, just like BetterHelp. That's our new sponsor. Get the help you deserve. BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/P60 today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/P60 to get 10% off your first month. Remember, just because you need help doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Getting help is a true sign of strength, and they have something for everyone. So reach out, get that help right now at betterhelp.com/P60. And folks, I don't just talk about that because they're a sponsor. I went after them to be a sponsor because if you've been following me through my different iterations from Darkness Radio to Beyond the Darkness, Midnight in the Desert, and here, right here on the Paranormal 60, I've always used BetterHelp. And I believe in them because they help me through the dark times. They help when the clouds get a little too heavy over my head. So I know that they were able to help me. They're going to help you too. Try them out. Again, betterhelp.com/P60. You're going to save 10% off that very first month. We are sitting here with a legend, folks. I know it's hard to believe. How could you have not heard of David Scott before? I know many of you in the chat room have, and I thank you for joining us here tonight. Dave Scott is the host of Spaced Out Radio, one of my favorite shows, Monday through Friday. You can check it out, live broadcasts daily, and I'll have a link for it on today's program guide as well. Please check out the show. When you get done listening here, roll on over and spend some time at Spaced Out Radio. Yeah, from time to time, you're going to hear guests that you've heard on this show, but as you see, two guys, very similar lives, but different questions, different angles, different perspectives on the situations that we all love. So Dave Scott, our guest tonight. Dave, again, thanks for being here with me.
Oh, thank you. What a pleasure, man. What an absolute pleasure.
Well, let's talk about this. So you've had this awakening experience, and you're talking to a friend who's kind of this guru helping you through this. And manifestation is such a great
Yeah.
keyword, right? I tell people when Shane and I go to locations for the Holzer files, and I did it when I was on Ghost of Devil's Perch. I did it through manifestation. A lot of it was setting the intention, manifestation, going in and having this set forth, pure of heart, showing the spirits that I'm there to try to help. I'm there and I'm open to be communicated with, not always the way I want them to communicate with me, but we had some remarkable experiences. And I believe it is a lot to do with that manifestation. And you began doing that because you wanted to have a Bigfoot encounter. You'd
Yeah.
seen a UFO, you'd had spiritual moments, the cryptid. Now, this is something different. All right, you've set this intention. You wanted it in July. Nothing
It
happens until
happened in September of
okay.
2013. My
All right.
friend had this. Everybody's heard of the ECETI Ranch in Washington State, James Gilliland.
Yeah.
Okay. Great guy, horrible interview. I think we can all agree on that. But it was funny. My friends in Mission, British Columbia had this 10-acre parcel of land,
Mhm.
and a lot of weird stuff happened there, man. And they had one neighbor to their right, and that was an elderly couple. So my friends had 10 acres. The elderly neighbors had 6.5 acres, and it was horseshoed by forest and a ravine. Remember that for when we get to the aliens, man. Okay. And yeah, thanks, Markham. But on that day, my friend, his name is Dave as well, wanted
Okay.
to show me where he had a weird encounter as a child when him and his buddy were playing hide and seek.
Okay.
And so we start taking this deer trail through the forest. We get about 350 yards in, and we come to this tree, Dave, and it snapped at about 8 feet tall. Snapped. Now the tree's about this big, pretty wide. The bark was still wet. And, in my amateurish way of just getting to know things, I said, sometimes Sasquatch has been known to take down trees. And lo and behold, a couple minutes later, we started getting that feeling that we were being watched. Now, we didn't think Sasquatch right off the bat, guys. I mean, you got to realize where I live in British Columbia, there's a lot of mountain lions, there's a lot of bears. Okay, and now that I live north, I mean, you can throw the grizzly bears and the 1,500-pound moose into wolves into the mix there.
Right.
Back in Mission, excuse me, it was more black bears and big cats that you
Mhm.
had to watch out for. And so we started getting this feeling like we were being watched, and all of a sudden, like we both of us looked north at the same time, and there about 100 feet away, we could see something peering in front of us from like kind of dodging in front of the tree and then pulling back, and then we could see the face, and then we could see the shoulder. And I said to my buddy, I said, "Is that a Sasquatch?" He goes, "I think it might be." And we watched this thing, and it would peer out, peer back, peer out from
Mhm.
the tree, and then pull back. We watched it for about 5 minutes. Now, my friends of mine, they're very spiritual people. They wanted anything and everything to feel comfortable on their land. They had a few rules: no alcohol on their
Mhm.
property or in their house, no drugs, including marijuana. Okay, not that I smoke pot, anyways, and no video cameras or photographs taken.
Okay.
This was all about they wanted to build their own spiritual zen there. And we heeded by the rules. So Dave and I do what any good Canadian kid would do. We put our hands up, we waved, we said, "Thank you so much for showing us." And I kind of turned to my right to turn back down the path. And about 75 feet away, I see this tree branch shaking, you know? And I'm like, "What the hell is that?" I kind of look, and that's where I saw the second one. walk right through, where I got like a full right side and back profile. There was no neck. It was just straight, these giant Andre the Giant shoulders to this giant pointed head. It never looked at me. That's what bugged me. It never looked at me. And I yelled at my buddy, I said, Dave, there's a second one. Do you see it? He's already 40 feet down the trail, because he's one of these guys who takes big steps, and I got these short little penguin legs, right? So I go running up to him. I'm not being there by myself. So that was one of our Sasquatch encounters there. We had another one there where this is what really screwed me up.
Now, Dave, let me ask you one thing though.
Yeah.
It didn't turn to look at you. Do you feel that it knew you were there, or do you feel like maybe you were glimpsing at a moment in time? Maybe
No,
I
it
don't want to
knew.
call it a ghost, but it knew.
Dave,
It just wasn't going to give you the time of day.
we could do an entire 3-hour show on this property. Okay. This property would manifest things to happen to you. Okay. I had, if we have time, I had my UFO landing sighting on that property. I had my alien sighting on that property in the middle of the day. Another Sasquatch sighting. There were ghosts all over the place, fairies flying around the trees at night, demons on the other side of the road, or what we perceived as demons around the other side of the road. In the forest. Like, there was a bunch of crap happening there. And if I could have afforded to buy that property, I would have bought it, because I would have my own little Skinwalker ranch going on. Right. It would have been crazy.
Now, is this property still owned by people you know?
He sold it. It's funny when you get involved with the wrong people who are in spirituality for the wrong reason, bad things tend to happen. And my friend Dave was a really, really good guy who I felt was taken advantage of. And I'll just leave it at, he was forced to sell the property.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
So did you ever feel threatened by these? And I don't know. I don't even know if the term creature is the right word, Dave, right? Is it just another humanish being? What do you believe Bigfoot really is? And did you ever feel threatened?
I've only kind of felt threatened once, and that's after in 2018 when I moved up north here, where my buddy Merle, Merle, Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers, him, myself, and my buddy Mark, we went into the forest, and about 25 miles from my house is Canada's largest unsolved mass murder. And that happened on July 8th, 1965, when a bomb blew up a DC-6 airplane flying from Vancouver to Whitehorse, Yukon. And 52 people died on that plane. It's still an open case to this day. So Merle was like, man, let's go investigate this. It was October of 2018. And that area, you have to go in with a gun. You have no choice but to go in with a gun, because there's just too many wild animals in that area. And so after about an hour of investigating there, Merle's like, dude, let's go check out this different area in this deer trail, see if there's any more plane wreckage. Sure. So we follow this deer trail and we go through these trees. It opens up to a meadow. And my buddy Mark, who's our armed guard, he stands at the trees. He says, you guys go into the meadow in case any animals come. I've got a great line of sight here, and I'll take care of the animals. You do your thing. So Merle and I walk through this meadow. We get to this giant boulder. And right in front of us, Dave, couldn't see it. You remember the Sierra sounds from Ronald Moorhead?
Right.
Right in front of us, man.
So that kind of samurai chatter.
Yes. Samurai chatter. And Merle, I look at Merle and, and I said, did you hear that? He goes, hear what, Dave? I said, did you just hear that male voice? And he's like, yep. So knowing that this area where they're in, like, people have to understand, I am in the middle of nowhere. Okay. It's not like you're going to hear loggers or people, driving down the area. My town is only 2,000 people. And most of those people, when they spread out in the forest, you don't hear from them again. And there's one way into this place and one way out, and that place is behind us at this point. So we yell over at Mark. Mark, did you say anything? He goes, nope. Did you hear anything? Nope. Well, that's not surprising. Mark's half deaf from how many gunshots he's fired off in his lifetime. And then again, okay. Not even thinking Sasquatch at this time. All right. Or the Sierra Sounds. We, after a couple more minutes, we're like, hello, who wants to talk to us? Are you there? Asking all the, the ghost hunter type questions that one in the middle of a forest would be looking like a fool over. No answers. So we go back to the original crash site. Mark goes into the recovery area that they had to carve out of the trees in 1965. It's like a little cul-de-sac. I'm kind of on this little knoll in between Mark and Merle. And Merle goes to this one piece of wreckage, which is a piece of landing gear. And lo and behold, within a couple seconds of us getting there, this creature has now moved within 15, 20 feet of Merle. And he's huffing and puffing and shaking branches and stomping his feet. And Merle's like, get Mark over here now. There's something here. I'm out of here. That's Merle's famous words. I'm out of here. So Merle takes off towards me, and I'm yelling at Mark, get over here. We got something up here. And in the meantime, Mark takes off his backpack and raises his rifle in front of him because there is something coming at him through the trees. Now, Mark will tell you point blank, it wasn't something that was on four legs. Mark is not just your average hunter. He's been a guide. He's been an animal tracker. He's been a wolf tracker, a cougar tracker. Like, this guy is very well known for his hunting skills and prowess. And he's been a paid guide. And the exit happened to be right in between where they were. So we gathered our stuff and figured that was our exit time, and we pushed on out.
You have an experience like that. All you're hearing is just this thing right near you, but you're not seeing it. Do you think that's how they vanish? They're always there. They're just slightly out of phase from our visual perspective.
I don't know if Sasquatch is of flesh and blood or not. Okay. I'm not here to make that assumption. All I know with my own personal experiences of being with this creature, I do believe there is, I say, something special. And I don't think we're advanced enough to call it a monkey or Gigantopithecus or anything along those lines. Dave, I don't think we're mature enough in the research to be able to do that. And I think it's arrogant for anybody to be thinking that it is something different. The one thing that I've learned about the cryptid world or the UFO world and doing spaced out radio is we seem to do a lot on our own personal opinion. Right. Last I checked, the phenomenon, which I think includes everything, has nothing to do with personal opinion at all. So it's just one of those weird factors that
but it's hard not to play into that, right? That we want to understand, we want to give things a parameters, even if it shifts.
Yeah.
We like to have that. It's a feeling of comfort. It's our inner, retentive child, right? It needs to know that mommy's coming home at the end of the day. So we want to have them nicely compartmentalized.
Yeah. My latest Sasquatch encounter was this last October. And we've been investigating this area since Mother's Day when we found a footprint there. And we finally saw him. It was about 9:00 at night. It was the night before a full moon. It was October 8th because it was Canadian Thanksgiving around October 8th. And my buddy Mark again was with us. My son saw it. And I saw it. I'll tell you, after this, we all went and bought better flashlights. But we heard a snap. Mark heard a snap of a tree, a tree branch, and we ended up putting our flashlights up. And sure enough, about 100 yards away, there he was standing there I say he, I don't know if it's he or she, but we do know that it was about, by our calculations, about 10 feet tall. And then when my buddy Mike showed up and said, "What's going on?" And he put his flashlight up, the creature bent down and was crouching down. And we have no way understanding how it left. If it stood up and went to its left, it would have had to climb over a bunch of trees. If it went to its right, it would have gone back across the logging road and had to climb up an 8-foot embankment in order to get away from us. If it just laid down and lied there, we would have never known. Did it crawl backwards? Maybe. Did it vanish? Could have. We don't know. I do know we went back there 2 days later in the daylight, and we found in a different area close to it 2 16-inch tracks. That's awesome.
You have all of these amazing things happen to you. Do you believe that because you've opened yourself up, that is what led to your abduction, your eventual abduction, because you are just kind of a wide open book at this point?
Are we allowed to go over time?
I don't know if you know this. Paranormal 60 is just kind of a rule of thumb. We're able to do
Okay.
whatever I'd like.
Right.
So I can go, so I call it the director's cut. We go,
Okay.
we go a little longer. So
Hey,
we're good.
I'm going to give you, this is probably my most prominent story
Okay.
or of what's happened to me. And it was on April 10th, 2014. I was going back to the farm. My partner was there with our 9-month-old son, and I was driving there. I worked I worked about 45 minutes out of town.
Mhm.
And as I was driving to the farm, I started getting a migraine because I suffer from migraines. And I get to the farm, my head is killing me. I walk inside. I said to my partner, I said, "I don't know how long I could be here. I'm not feeling well, and I need to go have a hot shower in a dark room." And she's like, are you okay? Do you want to leave now? And I'm like, "No, I just got here. You just got here. Let's enjoy tea." Well, I realized that so I go sit on the couch, put a pillow over my eyes and keep my eyes closed, just trying to shake it off. And I realized that it's not actually a migraine, that it's actually shapes pulsating in my head. It started off as a square in the front here, went to a triangle on the right side of my head, and then a circle on the left. And after about half an hour, this takes us to about 10 o'clock at night, I realized that I had an anxiety attack, that I had to go outside into the back field. And I was like, I got to go. I got to go. My wife's like, can I come with you? And I said, "No, you need to stay in here with the boy." So the lady of the house, who I never talk about, she says to her hubby, Dave, she says, "Dave's picking something up. We need to go outside." And I looked at her and I said, "He can't come. He's not invited." Why would I tell somebody they're not invited into their own property? So her and I get our shoes on. We walk around the back of the house. It's one of those, like living in the lower mainland of British Columbia. It's very much, Dave, like living in a tropical rainforest. You get a lot of low cloud, misty cloud, especially on the mountains. And we had one of those misty cloud nights where everything just made you damp. And we walk back, and in behind the house, about 50 feet, there's this old 2x10 horse fence, because I used to raise horses there. And we stop at that fence, and you could cut the tension with a knife. And the lady says to me, "Well, they called you outside. Like, you can feel something here. This is something that is odd." So she goes, "They called you. Say something." So I said, in the exact same volume that I'm talking to you right now, I said, "Out of God's peace, love, and light, you called us outside. Could you please show us where you are?" And on my command, I swear my children's lives and on a Bible or whatever, 150 yards away from the neighbor's back field,
Mhm.
which is right by the forest, the entire tree line lit up like a Christmas tree. Just like that. And the skeptical part of me was like, holy cow, what just happened? Is there people there? Do they have one of those 100,000 or million candle watt flashlights? Do I hear laughing? Do I hear music? Do I see people? Do I see any shadows of people running around? Okay, I am trying to be as skeptical as possible because I know I'm at a par 3 150 right here, and I can ace this thing right now. And after about 30 seconds, the lights turn off. And I'm like, holy cow. And the lady is like, dude, do it again. See if they'll turn their lights back on. So I said, if you are of alien descent out of God's peace, love, and light, can you please turn your lights on again? Bang. Lights come back on again. This time it's wider and brighter through the trees, but I see something blue. There was a row of trees in between the two properties, of maple trees and fir trees that were probably 60, 70 feet tall. But I saw something blue, a blue I had never, ever seen before, man, ever. And hold on, I got to send a tweet here. There we go. Sorry, I have to prepare for my show too.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyways, that's okay. Anyways, I see this blue and I kind of start walking over to my right to find a sight line, a path of vision. And that's where I see this blue cylinder standing vertically about halfway up these trees. And the white light is emanating all around it with this black cloud that is rotating counterclockwise. And it would go halfway up this cylinder and then all the way back down and then halfway back up and then all the way back down. Boom, lights off 30 seconds later. So the lady now wants to walk over to this thing. And I'm like, no, we're not going over there. And she's like, come on, let's go check it out. I said, I'm suspect number 1. Okay.
Right.
You go missing. We don't know what the hell this is. I am suspect number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I am not doing this. You're staying right here. Right. Like trust me, I hate the whole macho, misogynistic man card kind of thing. Okay, but I had to pull it. I was scared, dude.
Right.
I was scared. So I finally convinced her to stay here with me and said, she goes, well, see if they'll turn on their lights one more time. So I said, just so I know I'm not crazy, out of God's peace, love, and light, will you turn your lights on one final time? Bang. Lights come back on. It's the exact same thing as we were looking at before, and we're just standing there and admiring it, much like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind type of thing. And then at the end of it, Dave, this is where it got weird because, you know, all the skeptics will tell you that if you see one of those giant flare-ups in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, it's iridium flares, it's the sun reflecting off the material, and you can't trust that. That's not UFOs or anything like that. Okay. This thing started turning its lights on and off, on and off. And it did this 10 times because my partner and I, we used to go outside to count satellites, but over time we started really noticing, Dave, how much these flares would happen right over top of our house. And it wasn't just one a night. It was like 3, 4, 5 a night. So all of a sudden, I understand the science. I'm trying to be skeptical here, but when you start seeing these lights open up over your house, then you see this thing on the ground that is bright, powering up its lights and turning them off again. It made me wonder, were they the same thing? Were they not? I didn't know. So that was interesting. When the lights went off, we stood out there for about another 10 minutes trying to ask them. There was no sound, no nothing. This thing disappeared. We went back inside, told everybody what we saw, and then that was the night. Now, personally, I didn't sleep for 5 nights. And then 4 days later, my partner gets a call from the lady of the house and says, hey, I met this young lady named Samantha. She's an ET contactee. And would you like to come over and meet her? Sure. So this now takes us to Wednesday, the 15th. And we go over there. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I hadn't been to the farm since this incident.
Mm-hmm.
I go back. I'm pacing. I don't want to sit here and listen to girly talk about tea and crystals and
Sure.
tarot cards. I want to get back out there. It's now daytime. So Samantha looks at me, and I literally said 4 words to this young lady. She goes, "You want to go outside, don't you?" We told her what happened, and she goes, "You want to go outside, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Can I come with you?" Sure. So her and I walk back, and I'd always bring my 2 dogs over to the farm, and there's 2 dogs on the farm, and the 4 dogs would run together and play. The dogs follow us back there. And when I was showing her where the craft was and explaining everything to her, she started picking up on the energy. Then after about 15 minutes, she goes, "Dave, how'd you like to go back in the forest with me?" I'm like, "Okay." And she goes, "We're probably going to see something, right?" Like, yeah, I just knew. And then she says something weird. She goes, "But from what I know, aliens don't like dogs, so I'm not sure if we'll actually see anything." So we try and shush the 4 dogs back to the house. We go back. That didn't work. They run into the forest. And then we follow ahead. And her and I have it small talk. We walk through the forest, dogs running around. We get about 50 yards into the forest. And Samantha stops and starts looking around. She got this perplexed look on her face. I'm like, "What's the matter?" And she's looking around. She's like, "Dave, where's the dogs?" All 4 dogs were gone. Couldn't find them.
Mm.
So, Dave, like stupid white people in a horror movie, we keep going. Okay? We
Right.
keep going. And we walk another 50 yards into the forest, and Samantha then jumps on this tree stump because she's very small. She's only like 5'1", 5'2". And she's looking around, and she's got that perplexed look on her face again. And I stop. I'm about 18 inches from her. She goes, "Dave, I don't want you to be afraid." And then she goes, "I want you to look that way." And she points north. She goes, "I want you to tell me what you see." So I took a deep breath. I turned to my left. I look, and I say, "Samantha, what the F is that? Samantha, what the F is that? What the F is that, Samantha?" And I kept repeating that because 200 feet in front of us, I was looking at a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial standing there in the middle of the forest. And it was a very light tan color. I didn't see the arms, didn't see the legs. I saw the head, which was extremely bulbous. It didn't look like a gray. It didn't look like anything I'd ever seen in a book. And I was frozen. I wasn't scared of the being. I was scared of the situation, Dave, because my brain was not comprehending what my eyes are seeing. This is 2:00 in the afternoon. This is all the kids are at school. This isn't
Right.
somebody playing a joke out there.
Hmm.
Samantha then starts communicating with the second being that's there. And that second being says, "Don't worry, we're not here to harm you. We're not here to take you. You're more than welcome to come over and say hello. However, we worry about the man's health." Now, it's only her and me, and I know I'm a guy and that she's a lady. So I know they're talking about me. And
Now,
Samantha's
when you
like,
said you're hearing this in your head, or they're
"No, I
verbally
didn't hear
speaking
this."
it?
Samantha is telling me this telepathic message that she's getting from them. Okay. So I'm like, "No, we're not going over there." And she goes, "Well, let's go. They've already told us they're not going to take us. So let's go." I said, "Samantha, I saw fire in the sky." At that point, I
Right.
didn't know how fake it was, right? The movie, not Travis Walton, but the movie.
Right.
And I said, "I am not going back to the house as suspect number 1. Stay here." And she's like, "I'm going," because she's a very strong-willed lady. And I begged her. I literally begged her, and my voice started to crack. I'm like, "Please do not leave me." And that's where she stopped, about 10, 15 feet down the path. And she came back, and we just stood there, Dave. Like, we just stood there and stared. I never saw the second being, but I know there was 2 there because
Hmm.
Samantha had seen the 2. And I just couldn't take my eyes off this thing. It changed color. It went from that really light tan to almost like a quarter horse color.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 10, 15 minutes, we started getting these messages, both her and I, that there were more aliens. If we walked down this trail over here, that there would be more. So she goes, "You want to go?" I said, "Sure." So we waved bye-bye to these guys, as stupid as that sounds, because what do you do? I don't know. You just don't leave. You got to be polite, you know? We walk to this other section, and it feels like there's aliens all over the place, man. And there's nothing there. Like, you see things move out of the corner of your eye, you turn, oh, it's a leaf falling, or it's a branch, or it's a bird, or a squirrel, or whatever. After about 10 minutes there, we go back to the original place, and they are gone. So we start making our way back to the farm. We get within 50 feet of the gate, and all 4 dogs come running out at us to welcome us back.
Wow.
So we get out of there, and Samantha says to me, "Have you ever been taken?" And I'm like, "No." And she goes, "Well, there's a good chance it's going to happen now that you've had this interaction." I'm like, "Great. Wonderful. Superb." I now have been taken, as far as I know, 8 times that I've recalled. One was not very good. There was a lot of screaming in that one. A couple others were kind of funny.
Would you be willing to come back in and do? I know you've got a show you've got to get ready for here very soon. We're over on this. Would you be willing to come back and talk to us specifically about the abductions and what it was like?
Anytime, buddy.
All right. Well, then let's do this. I'm traveling a lot this month. I'm recording as many episodes as I can to fill in while I'm not here. But let's get together at the beginning of March and pick up where we're leaving off with you've had this experience. You've now been told you're going to have abductions or you're going to be picked up. And then let's talk about each one of these when we return. I hope our listeners are cool with that. I'm sure they can find out more of the stories on your podcast and visit you. I do have one quick question from one of our audience members I wanted to kind of leave you with, if you could encapsulate for us. Michelle asks, "Dave, Scott, what do you think all of these different beings are trying to tell you from your first experience with the angel of death to now? Do you believe that there's a message for Dave, Scott?"
I don't know. That's why I have a radio show. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know anybody outside of the name Art Bell. And, at that point, I didn't know who to ask. So I started my own radio show, knowing that as a journalist that I could ask some proper questions. And I wish I knew the answer. I hate to sound vague on it, but that's the best answer I can give you. When I do know, I'll let you know.
Sounds like a plan to me. Dave Scott, he is the host of Spaced Out Radio. You can hear it Monday through Friday live, 9 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Mountain, 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast. So if you are done listening to our show, roll over, especially on Mondays and Fridays, pick up on the continuation of the best in paranormal discussion with my buddy Dave Scott. Dave, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure having you on tonight and spending some time.
Always a pleasure, my friend. And you're always more than welcome on Spaced Out Radio anytime you want to come on too.
You got it. We'll connect again soon. Maybe we should do a nice back-to-back episode. People can start with us and then we'll arc over. Maybe we'll do that in March and have some fun. Sounds good. Dave Scott, stay safe, my friend.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Awesome stuff. Amazing guest. Hey, this coming Monday, Myth, Miracle, and Making Friends with Ghosts. We have 2 amazing guests that are going to join us, Maxim Furyk, Mallory Chawinski. We are going to talk about the case of, and this is so weird, the Shepton mining incident, where these 3 miners trapped in a mine to come out and talk about amazing things they've seen, and there is no sign of the third. What happened? You'll want to hear that from Maxim Furyk. And then Mallory chimes in with her brand new book to talk to us about making friends with ghosts, how her life has changed over the last few years with the opening of the paranormal. That's on Monday's show. We've got a brand new episode of The Best in Paranormal News. You can tune in and hear that this coming Friday night. There are people that you meet in your journey in life that will have experiences far beyond what you've had. Keep your eyes open, keep your mind and heart open, and be aware that there are things going on around us. Maybe you've seen it and haven't even noticed what you're encountering. It's shows like this, guests like Dave Scott, and so many of the amazing guests we have on this program that open our minds, shift our paradigms, and give our brains permission to think outside the box. And I encourage you, dear friends, to do that as well. I want to thank my guest and good friend, Dave Scott, for joining us. Check out the links we have for him on today's program guide. As soon as this show's over, go cue in and start watching Dave Scott over on Spaced Out Radio. Supporting him supports me, and we are friends in this community. Let's keep it going. Thank you all for visiting the Paranormal 60, allowing me along on your journey, and may the darkness be just a little more light with the information that we share here. Make sure to like this video and podcast, subscribe, tell everybody you know about it. And for new podcast listeners and viewers, please rate and review this show, and welcome to the family. Thank you for joining me here on my journey with the Paranormal 60.